Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hello and welcome to another episode of A Day Late and a Dollar Short. My name is Palladium Moores and I'll be your host for the day. And today's game is Final Fantasy XIII. Quick and the dirty, it's a 7 out of 10. This is a beautiful game that's pretty fun to watch, but there's not a whole lot going on under the hood. It is extremely linear in almost every sense of the word, and the story is pretty damn poor. Alright, for those of you who are just here for that, take it easy. For everyone else, well, buckle up. Alright, the pros. As I said before, this is a gorgeous game. This game is absolutely... It is still amazing insofar as graphics go. It's some of Square's best work, I think. It's fun to watch, too. I mean, some of the stuff you can do in combat is really fun to watch. The cutscenes are usually pretty fun to watch. They do a good job of making these characters believable in their motions. This sounds pretty good. Honestly, I don't have too many complaints about the sound because I don't remember most of it, but the ending theme, My Hands, is absolutely gorgeous. And, yeah, no, that works out pretty well on the ending. I mean, it's a very emotional song, and it helps to go with what's going on there. Okay, now that we're done with the pros, let's move on to the cons. I'll actually save the worst for last here, same as I did with 15. The story's pretty weak. There's really no getting around that. It's overly melodramatic, it's too taunt, it's bipolar, it flips back and forth between there's no hope and there's too much hope, and the characters aren't really believable in most of their advancements insofar as character development goes. You've got two characters who do decently with it, Hope and Saz. Both of theirs are fairly believable. Lightning, she just suddenly flickers on the other. She's like, oh, well, I guess I've been being a jerk, and then she flips over to not being so bad. Snow doesn't really develop, which is okay. He doesn't need to. He's actually an example of a character who actually goes through a lot and changes, but not in the extent that some of the characters in the story do. I like Vanille. Like, Vanille and Hope always get a ton of crap, and I can understand for Hope at first. He just lost his mother, all that fun stuff. But he does develop as a character, and that's the important part. Vanille develops as well, but here's the thing. Vanille always catches a lot of crap. This child, in her teenage years, was taken by a fal'Cie and basically told to destroy the world. Okay, listen, she's got some issues. Now, you'd think that would forgive Fang, but I think Fang is the worst character in this game by far. And I'm not going to continue on with this path, because this is what this is about. The characters are bad. The story's bad. Okay, neither of these two things is well done overall. Not that I hate the characters, they're just not very well developed. It's the same with the story, too. It's just so... They tried to be emotionally wrought, and it does not work. And that's part of the issue with having such massively powerful characters. And I'm talking about the fal'Cie, not just the main characters. These godlike beings that rule over everyone, and... it doesn't work. And now for the linearity. I was stalling on this because I'm trying to think of the best way to approach this subject. Everything about this game is linear. Every path you travel, every experience point you gain, all of it, combat itself, it's super linear, and it's not in a fun manner linear. Like I said before, it's fun to watch. Watching stuff like this, it really is awesome. Playing stuff like this, not so much. People's main complaint is that you just push X to auto battle, and you can argue that all you want. That's the reality of it. I played through 90% of this game, and the main thing I had to do was change paradigms at the right time. And by the way, I went through most of the game, 99% of the game, with 3 paradigms, and had no issues until the final boss. And it's the same with auto-attacking. You can go through to the final boss, and I probably could have beaten the final boss just doing the auto-battle. And don't tell me you can do without it, because yeah, maybe you can, but that doesn't forgive the fact that you can also do it with it! That you can just have the game do everything for you, except switch paradigms. And even then, I'm sorry, but having to switch paradigms occasionally just isn't that fun or compelling. Now, another major issue is actually something we're seeing here in the video. Well, not so much. Is that later on, enemies are massive hit point pinatas. They are not fun to take down, to where you have to use the break system in order to make any headway. On large enemies or bosses, that's fine. That's okay. That's completely understandable. On normal fodder, that is not alright. This, by the way, is still fairly early on. This is when Snow first gets Shiva, the Shiva sisters. I'm not going to touch that right now. That's combat. Exploration. Ugh. I've heard it called Final Hallway 13 before. It's freaking accurate. Oh, dear God. It's just... And that's the thing. The backgrounds you traverse while you're doing this are beautiful. But it doesn't actually feel like you're having a journey. Like, the places feel so disjointed that it doesn't feel like you're traveling from one to another. It just feels like you're being tossed in from one set piece to the next. And it does not work very well. It does not flow very well. It's juxtapositioned and it just feels unnatural. And experience is the same way. I gotta complain about this experience system. This attempts to copy the sphere grid system from Final Fantasy X and fails on every conceivable level. There are no options here. They do the occasional branch off, you can do that, but God forbid if you want to do something that is not one of the main character's main 3 specialties, because you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it in blood, sweat, and tears as you grind for hours to get a single point. I realize this is probably meant to elongate gameplay, but all it does is frustrate the players. And not in a fun degree. You've got I'm not sure what word I was going for there. You've got fun frustration, which is feeling like you're making progress, and you've got beating your damn head against a wall, which is what this is. This weapon system, too. Weapons and accessories in this they don't feel like they matter. And God forbid you want to get an ultimate weapon in this game. You better be prepared to grind for hours. And I brought this up in Final Fantasy XV as well. And that is just made worse by the fact that money doesn't drop normally. You have to collect certain things that sell for high amounts of money. And those things are not common. You either find certain enemies who have it, or later enemies later on have a very rare chance to drop some things that sell for large amounts. And it just works to frustrate the player. Also, let me fix this. I actually meant to loop it. But you know what? You guys can see this mistake, because I feel like this is a pretty good review. But, oh. And I realize I've listed off a number of cons for this, and I said I stand by a 7 out of 10, because the thing is, this is not a bad RPG. This is a mediocre to okay RPG. I realize I'm making it sound like I hate it. I don't like it, and I don't like it because of what I've come to expect from this particular series. Alright, now that is the end of the official review, and now I'm going to talk for a little bit more on the game. But if you were just here for the review, that's the bulk of it. But I want to address something that I brought up in Persona 4, my Persona 4 review, that it seems like I'm judging more harshly here, and that's linearity. And in Persona 4, the linearity comes from dungeons, and it comes from enemies. But here's the difference in Persona 4 and in Final Fantasy XIII. In Final Fantasy XIII, those dungeons are where you are 100% of the time. And people say it gets better on Cocoon. No, it doesn't. Cocoon, you've got a couple more hallways to pick from and some side quests you can do, but it's not the same thing. It's not as open-ended as even Final Fantasy X was. It's not as open-ended as, I would say 12, but in reality, 12 was almost an open world game. Good lord. It's so claustrophobic. And Persona 4, the reason it gets a pass, and not actually a pass because I nailed their dungeon design pretty hard, is that most of what you do does not take place in dungeons. Most of what you do takes place with other characters outside of dungeons. Dungeons are almost an afterthought in Persona 4. That's not okay. That design wasn't okay either. But I'm just saying that it doesn't affect it as much because it's not as large a part of the game as dungeons are here in Final Fantasy XIII. Because like I said, that's all you ever do. You never visit towns because there are none. You never do anything outside of dungeon crawl. So when your dungeon has just been one straight line, and that's an exaggeration, you guys know I'm exaggerating, it begins to just wear away at you. Like, there doesn't feel like there's any point. And when you've got the story this game has mixed in with that, it drains your will to play. Now, one thing, I've ragged on this game so hard, but one thing I love about this game is the ending. I thought the ending was very poetic. I thought it was beautiful. It's not a perfect ending. Spoilers, just in case you've not played this, but not everybody makes it out of the ending. And that's part of what makes it so beautiful. Because two of the characters sacrifice themselves to save everyone else. Oh, and my hand plays. And my hands plays. And it's just, oh. I'm sorry. I really enjoy the ending. And then come Final Fantasy XIII 2, and they just... time travel. Alright. I'm going to call it here before I rant anymore. But thank you guys very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. If you'd be so kind as to poke that like button if you enjoyed what you saw. And if you'd like to see more, hey, the subscription button is right there. And I will be seeing you